And I just remember a lot of eyes on us last year going, how did you pull this off? What are the details? And I'm like, well, we're not telling you everything,
Obviously.
but...
All right. Great, Rains. I'm really excited to speak with you. Thanks for having me here in your Florence office. I appreciate it.
Excited to have you here today. It's always fun to tell our story and to share what we have going on here in Florence and in Charleston.
Yeah, you got quite a bit going on and a great story to tell. So as an overview of you guys, so you're 59 hotels as of last week. You said a couple additions. 4,500 keys and about 2,000 associates. Company dating back to the 50s, 60s is the origin. So I'd love to hear if you want to give an intro right now just on yourself and then a snapshot of the company, then we can go back in time a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So Gray Rains, managing partner of the Rains Company, been a part of things my entire life. So again, it's a family business, fourth generation, officially joined the company in 2003, but feel like I've been a part of it forever. From my first real job that I can kind of own, that's a piece of me. I remember was being a short order cook at our Courtyard Marriott here in Florence. It was a significant property. It was our first Marriott. It was that was always the gold standard to my dad. My father, Mark, he wanted to own a Courtyard Marriott, and it took, we'll go through that with the history of how we got there. But that was really it. I was 15 years old and I was in the back slinging burgers and chicken tenders. And I just remember I had a good group of buddies, kind of some older guys. They'd come over every Wednesday and, have a couple of cocktails and a cheeseburger, just kind of support what I was doing. But I loved the hotel business. Wow. I mean, really from day one. And that was really all aspects of it. I mean, from the operations side to later on in the development to structuring our investments, it just something that really just got a hold of me. And I've still addicted to it today.
What did you think you liked most about it back then? Like what stuck out to you of the interest?
I think it's the same thing that attracts me to it today is the people side. I mean, as we have grown as a company, as we've participated in other asset classes, you find that the folks that are in hospitality are unlike anyone else. I mean, whether that's office or retail or mini storage and multifamily, the way the hospitality industry treats each other, I mean, the level of respect that we give to each other. I mean, whether that's a competitor calling me, asking me a question about something, it's just so open book. And, but the people side, I mean, the knowing that making our associates happy at the property level makes our guests happy. And we're selling something that, even though they may be visiting us for a sad reason, whether that's a funeral or a sick relative, most people are excited to get to our properties. They're excited to get to a hotel. They're excited to check out the F&B or just to stay in the room. I mean, the experience, I still get excited to travel and see new hotels. I mean, that's what makes all of us, that's what's such a neat part of this industry. So, I think that's it. It's something that drives excitement. It drives an experience that people remember.
Absolutely. What's the best overview, if you could give an overview right now of Rains just in modern day? So like kind of talk about geography. We already talked about the number of assets, but the different services you have just lightly.
Yeah. So we're throughout the Southeast. I mean, as of last week, we added 17 hotels in Dallas, Texas. So,
congrats.
To be represented in Texas now, and then a heavy concentration in the Carolinas and Georgia, but also assets in Louisiana, Alabama, Oklahoma, Florida. And, it's about having the right partners in the right locations. But no, our main focus, we are operators at our core. I mean, that's what we do very well. That's what we wake up every day trying to figure out how we're going to be the best. Our management company has two arms. We have our core branded assets and a leadership team that's focused on maximizing the efficiencies, and whether that's a Courtyard Marriott, a Hilton Garden Inn, a Residence Inn, or a Hilton True. We have a team that understands how to operate those assets and how to have a team at the property levels that truly excel. So we have award-winning hotels. We love those assets. And then our other side of the world, which is relatively new, is Woven by Rains.
Yep.
Even though we've been in that asset class since 2012, or that variation of hospitality, and that being independent luxury soft-branded assets, we really defined that and a leadership team with the experience to bring that to fruition. And that's really from a branding, creating the story, driving the experience, the FF&E, I mean, really looking at every aspect of it, because the good and the bad is it's got the biggest opportunities for failure, because there's no one on your back telling you have to do exactly this. And that's why we love it. That's why we're searching out those types of properties. And we just completed one that I never thought I'd say I was going to be in the golf business, but we are now in the golf business, and that one's gone really well. So
which one is that?
That's the Waynesville Inn and Golf Club. And to bring that from out of a 2-year renovation and really a COVID project, and something that David and I, we worked on it, we grind on it a little bit, but so many things lined up for it to be where it is today, and really the path to success that it's on. Yeah,
it's an amazing looking property from online, from what I saw. In an original Donald Ross layout as well.
The front nine was an original Donald Ross from 1926.
That's wild.
And when we purchased the property, it had 27 holes. Not a very good 27-hole layout. So we felt the opportunity in working with Bobby Weed Golf. Bobby is just absolutely brilliant. We took it down to an 18-hole routing, fully restored the front nine, being the Donald Ross 9. And then Bobby created our Weed 9, our back 9, and that's a completely new 9 holes.
Wow.
And that enabled us to create residential lots, to create our practice facility, our wedge park, our Himalayan putting green, our range. It's just really an amazing use of space. I mean, it's still less than 200 acres.
Wow.
We have a historic inn that has got a lot of character dating back to 1926. It's been a lot of fun getting all the little moving pieces of the inn together. Mm-hmm. And we now have 75 rooms, three golf cottages that are 4 bedrooms, 4.5 baths each, building 5 more of those, and then 25 residential lots coming to market here in the next 30 days.
Oh, wow.
We opened with a full membership, opened with a wait list for membership. Mm-hmm. I think that, David and I always had the vision that the vibe of the club would fit somewhere between Palmetto, Ohoopee, and Bulls Bay.
Wow.
And we've really drawn a membership that has embraced our vision of if you're there, you belong. Mm-hmm. Even though you may be a hotel guest, you may be a member, the atmosphere is that when you're together on the back porch, everybody's there. They belong. Yeah. And we've seen that come together. We have a really nice communal fire pit. We've got a great outdoor patio that overlooks the mountains, and to see all these different groups of people come together, and next thing you know, there's tea times getting made the next day together, or matches getting lined up somewhere else. And so our mixture of local members, of national members, and then hotel guests, resort guests, it's been a really fun thing to see. And we're not even really into the season yet. And it was a moving target last year of exactly when the golf course was going to be ready to be open. I mean, I can look at a hotel project. I can tell you it's 90 days away. It's 30 days away. I don't know how to grow grass. Yeah. And luckily we've got Ross Burgess there, our super, who is an expert. And again, having Bobby's experience and expertise allowed us to have that July 1 opening last year. So we got through that, and now we're really going into our first real season, and it is going to be busy. We converted to Hilton December 28th of last year. Tapestry collection, and we've been really happy with the soft branded assets with Hilton. I mean, they're really winning. We've got Curio, the Foundry Hotel in Asheville. Mm-hmm. That was Curio Development of the Year. It's one of the best operated or best rated from a guest satisfaction standpoint. within the Curio system. And then we have Hotel Florence as part of the Tapestry collection, and then adding Waynesville. And then we've got another announcement that we're finalizing, but we'll add another golf course and Tapestry collection to the group by July 1.
No way.
Yeah. So
That's
we've been hard working on that side of it. And we just feel that there's an opportunity for the smaller resorts that have a golf course component that really need a personalized touch, that needs a focus that allows some out of the box thinking. I think we've seen where some of our competitors are very programmatic, and that doesn't necessarily relate to every golf course or every small resort.
What do you think that combination provides you, the operator, of having a great boutique asset and then also a great club as well? What do you think that combo provides for the hospitality, but also maybe for you guys as a company? Because it's different for you.
It is. It's very different. And I think what we've done is we've created a very focused experience for the membership. I think we found that so many times in these resort settings, the membership is an afterthought. We made a very concerted effort that the membership was a focus, and that we're going to drive the best membership experience. Therefore, you can have a profitable golf endeavor. I think so many times the membership is, no, we've got a bunch of resort guests that are paying X amount. We've got to get them out. We've got to get them on the golf course. And we're finding more of a balance of we're going to have a very healthy dues line and a very active membership, and then we're working our resort guests in from there. So
it's the membership was like capped at $350 or something, and then you guys let in $372. The last interview I heard. How do you balance in? If we can go back in time, I really want to hear the beginning of the story. But for Waynesville, and you have 350 members, but what is the priority there with hotel guests? Because that's kind of interesting.
We yield manage it the same as we do every single property we have. So it's as we identify from historical data, and also our members are allowed to book earlier, we're able to yield manage those guest rounds, and we're able to get those off at non-peak member times. So we're giving our members a prior, an opportunity.
So it's semi-private in it.
It's resort private.
Okay, resort private.
Yeah. So the only way to play is to either be a member or a guest of the property.
Very cool.
And then, I mean, for us, the draw is not just golf. It's not just the resort. We were drawn to Waynesville. We were drawn to this other opportunity because there's so much to do in the area. I mean, my family absolutely loves Waynesville Inn. I mean, they can't wait to get up there. And, my boys dabble in golf, but it's not their highest priority. I mean, it's hiking, it's fly fishing, it's mountain biking, it's downtown Waynesville is an absolutely amazing little town. And so, I mean, my entire family can visit and have a great stay, and golf can just be one component of what we do. I mean, I go up there and spend weekends with the family, and I don't play golf.
Sure.
And we feel like that was another reason we were drawn to the property.
Wow. This episode of The Deal Ranch is brought to you by Reed's Jewelers. If you're looking for a new watch, Reed's has it. They have a large selection of fine Swiss timepieces from Omega, IWC, Breitling, Grand Seiko, Tudor, and Tag Heuer. Since 1946, Reed's has been devoted to customer service and quality. Find a Reed's store near you or shop online at reeds.com. That's REEDS.com by clicking the link in the show notes. I want to talk about how you got into that deal and then the Foundry as well a little bit later. So if we could go back in time, I think it lays such a good foundation for the rest of the conversation. But your family was in the truck stop business or gas business, the Rock Stop or whatever.
Rock's Truck Stop.
Truck Stop. Okay. So starting back from 54, so can you tell that story?
Yeah.
So the origin of how we get to hospitality from your family.
Yes, I think hospitality was always part of who we were, or who we are. We had my great-grandmother, so really the start of our family business. She had a roadside truck stop in Hartsville, South Carolina. And I think that's where, our origin story starts. And from there, my grandfather built Rock's Truck Stop as I-95 was coming through South Carolina. So that was the move from Hartsville to Florence.
Got it.
And then with my Uncle David and my father Mark coming into the business, they branched from the truck stop side of the world more towards convenience stores. And that created another opportunity. We built on those convenience stores that we had. And really from there, in the late 80s, we had an extra parcel of land, a piece of property that about 3 acres behind a Texaco gas station on Highway 52 and I-95.
Wow.
And my father, I remember him always describing, he'd read the trade magazines. You think about it today as something that we go elsewhere for our information,
exactly,
but the trade magazines. And he had been reading on the hotel motel business. And he said, Marriott's the gold standard. That's where we want to be. That's who we want to be with. And he called him and said, I want to build one of your properties behind this Texaco gas station. And I still know several of the people that were there around that time, and they just laughed at him. They're like, Mark, you need to get some experience.
He had no hotel experience.
No hotel experience whatsoever. I mean, we had again, we were in the gas business. At that point, it was gas stations, and then we also had a distribution business, the petroleum distribution business. And, so my dad was one of the most determined guys in the world. He was going to find a way to figure things out. And, as he called some of the other brands, and again, same type of thing, like, Mark, you need to get some experience. We were fortunate to get a Super 8 franchise, and that was our first foray into the hospitality business. We built one of the nicest Super 8s I think you'll ever see. It's actually still a Super 8 on Highway 52. It's all brick. I can't really remember the room count, but I remember it being built. I was 6-7 years old at the time, and my father and my Uncle David and my family cousin Eddie Watkins were all part of that initial development. That. Wow. And my dad, my father, and Eddie would, one of them would check a guest in, the other one would run down and check the room real quick, and then they'd meet the guests down and welcome them to every room. Wow. So the hospitality side was just a very natural fit.
That's so cool.
And then from there we grew through acquisitions.
So not to cut you off, but no. So on that one, 92, right, the Super 8 deal.
Yeah.
They started in the hotel business by being owner-operators and developing the asset?
Absolutely, yeah. It was very old school. We had a good family friend of ours, actually a guy racing, automobile racing is a big part of our family as well, okay. And a guy that my grandfather used to race with and race for, Frank Sessoms from Darlington, South Carolina, actually built that first hotel. He built our gas stations. Oh, wow. And he figured out how to, he built the hotel. It was a very simple 2-story concrete, all brick exterior. And, Frank built that hotel for us, or that motel for us. So
how did they fund that original development?
We funded it
from it.
Yeah, from a bank, from a local lender here. Wow. that believed in us, mm-hmm. believed in our family. But it was a lot of cash too. I mean, it was putting everything we had on the line to make that happen. I think that's that comes from being a risk taker, entrepreneurial side of who we are. And, my dad was willing to, take a bet on hospitality, and it certainly has paid off for us over the long term.
Certainly has. Yeah. So then what's next after that? I didn't want to interrupt your story.
Yeah, no. I mean, it grew through acquisition. Yeah. We purchased the Hampton Inn next door. We purchased the Best Western.
These were shortly after?
These were 92? Okay. Probably within the next couple of years, kind of 92 to 97. Mm-hmm. My father structured another partnership. Through that time period, we grew to several properties, mm-hmm. and then he and my uncle and my grandfather exited that partnership in 97, and then secured the Courtyard by Marriott flag, and that we built that Courtyard on Highway I-20 in 95. So one exit down from where we kind of got our start.
Wow.
And so I mean, again, that was the goal. Like, how do we get to that Courtyard?
Yeah. So that must have been a big deal to him.
It was huge. It was huge. My father we all have these deals that we do in our lives that stand out. And I think my dad was probably most proud of that one. I mean, he fought for, 10 years to get that franchise, and he got it. And it was just something that meant the world to him. Mm-hmm. And it meant the world to us. I mean, that property more than any other built the company that we have today.
Why do you think so? From finally working with the Marriott brand, or
I think it just checked a lot of boxes for us. I mean, it was a big development at the time. I mean, almost 100 keys. Wow. It was 3 stories. It was a Marriott. You were dealing with a different group of development systems, and it was something that really put us to the test of, okay, can we deliver this? I mean, at the time where we built it, that was still kind of up and coming exit. It wasn't the exit that it was today. So, there were a lot of things a bit of pioneering going on to deliver product at that exit.
Interesting. So then what happens between, that's 97, 8 or
98? We opened in 98, and
2003 you start. So what's the transition to you starting at the first property?
Yeah, so I mean, I was there. I remember the grand opening. I remember seeing it. And, it was just such an awesome time. A lot of local folks were involved, but I went off to high school, my senior year of high school, and unfortunately, as I was finishing that year, my father got very sick, and he went through really an extended illness that summer that a lot of people said, I mean, the doctor said he had a less than 1% chance to get through. It was a rare form of pneumonia. It was something that brought our whole family together, but it was absolutely one of the worst times of my life. I mean, I remember that summer. I remember being there. At the time, my girlfriend, now my wife, Jenny, was there with me. My mom, my grandparents, my uncle. He was in a coma for that whole summer. I mean, he spent the entire summer in a coma, and I remember the times of, he's not going to make it through tonight. Mm. And he found a way. I mean, that just an absolute testament to my father. I mean, his ability to fight and his ability to find a way to survive that summer. I mean, it was an amazing thing. It was amazing to watch my parents. I mean, my mom never left his side. I mean, the entire time he was at MUSC in Charleston, she never left his side. And I think that there's so many life lessons learned that summer. I was the oldest of 4 kids, 18 years old. I was just wanting to go play golf in college. I mean, that was my focus at the time, exactly. And how my Uncle David ran the businesses while my grandfather, he was there a lot with my dad, my mom, and Uncle David was back here making sure everything was still functioning. Yeah. And, at that point we had several projects obviously moved to the sidelines for a lot of different reasons. And, but my father, fortunately, he came out of it, that late August, and it took him almost over. My mom knows these dates backwards and forwards. It all gets a little blurry to me at times, but I mean, it took him almost a year to get home.
Oh, wow.
And he had to learn to walk, to talk, to read, write, everything again. Wow. I mean, so it wasn't just surviving that summer. It was then the fortitude. It was that gut check of, no, I've got to learn how to talk. I got to learn how to eat, and to watch him go through that was extremely difficult, but it was also absolutely inspirational too. I mean, when you look back now and you see it, and you're like, wow, I there's days that I don't know that I could do it. Mm-hmm. I mean, to watch what he went through, and then, we got 15 more years with him after that we never thought we'd have. That's crazy. And, but yeah, I mean, people make comments at times and like, wow, you've done things with the business. And I just, my father, my grandfather, my uncle, my mom, I mean, there's such an amazing foundation here that I'm just trying to add floors to. Yeah. And I'm just trying to be a good steward for the time that it's here with me.
Right.
And to grow, what has evolved out of a family business, but it's very much our core. It's very much who we are.
Wow. So as he makes it through that would have been what, like early 2000s?
Early 2000s. I joined the company, came out of Francis Marion University here locally, played golf for Francis Marion, had a great time there playing golf and also working in the family business some. But 2003 was really the official May of 2003 is when I joined the company. We had, we were still
Spring Hill Suites?
Spring Hill Suites,
okay.
yeah. So we were still in the gas business, but we had a Spring Hill Suites under construction. It was, I think it was one of the first 25 or so Spring Hills coming out. It was originally, that was when they were converting Fairfields, trying to get them to become Spring Hills. We had one of the first new construction Spring Hills.
Cool.
And so we've always been an early adopter of brands, and sometimes that's worked for us, sometimes that hasn't. But for Spring Hill, it certainly has. I mean, we're big on Spring Hill now. We have several in the portfolio. We like that brand a lot. It fits. But for me, I came in, we were probably 5-6 months in construction, and I became my father's eyes on the construction project. And that was, I still, try to tell my kids these stories now. I remember taking pictures and then having to go wait for them to get developed. And then I took them back. My father was at home and he would look through the pictures and tell me to go look at this. I'm not sure they did the piping right here. That pool foundation doesn't look level. I mean, it was just, he'd mark it up and I'd go back and start arguing with the contractor over.
Take more pictures.
Yeah, take pictures. And so that's really where I got a taste of the development construction side. And then when that Spring Hill opened, I went full time to the Spring Hill.
To manage?
No, I actually front desk. So worked front desk, kind of became front office manager. And then from there, AGM and then GM. So I kind of worked my way through the operations side of that property. But no, I mean, our family has always had, you're going to earn your spot. You're going to earn your way through. You're going to know exactly the business we have and what we do. And then you're going to appreciate every level of that business. And I think that's really important. I think that having that culture, having that as a key tenet of who we are has allowed, the loyalty that we've seen through amazing associates. I mean, we've had folks that have worked with us. I mean, Elvis Stevenson is still on the payroll with us. And I mean, he worked with my great grandmother 50 plus years ago. And I can think of several associates that, we've had, unfortunately, as we all gotten older, but we had a housekeeper stay with us from the Super 8 days.
Wow.
And they just moved to wherever we moved in Florence, and they stayed with us, their entire careers.
What do you think? Why do you think people have been that loyal to? A lot of employers, people aren't as loyal to. What do you think you guys have provided for those folks that made it a good place for them to want to be for all these years?
I mean, I think it's a mutual respect. I think it's never been, I think the perfect example that I can think of, we've never had people work for us. We've always had people work with us. Yeah. And that, I can remember that 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I mean, my father, my grandfather, no one was ever, oh, this person works for us. That's not how we've ever approached it. And I think that's a start. I mean, everybody works with us. Everybody's, we all have the same goal. And I think that approach, and then, it's transparency, it's communication. I think that's, as we've grown so rapidly, that's really the piece that really at the end of the year, we recognized that our internal communications had to improve this year.
Right.
Because we had so many moving pieces, and you have folks that have always been part of the conversation, that have always been there, but then, they're focused on something else, and, they need to know what's going on, but something might happen that they felt they should have, should have been included. So just some of those growing pains. So January 1, I started a one-on-one call with every person in our corporate office once a quarter. And they're about 30 minutes each. It's just to catch up. It's, this is what we're working on. This is where we're going. And it's checking on them to make sure that they're good with the changes that we've had. And it's been awesome. It's been really good. And it's something that will continue for as long as I can do them. So, we have 56 folks in our corporate team now. I remember Kristen Myers, our SVP of investments. When she joined us, there were 3 of us in the corporate office.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We have several folks too that have come. Ron Glancy. Ron, I've known Ron my entire life. He was actually the general manager of the Hampton Inn next door to the Super 8. And then when we acquired the Hampton Inn, he stayed on board, stayed with us for a long time. And then he came back and rejoined us and has been with us now 20 plus years. And he oversees our transitions, our new openings. For someone to get in 6 months before a hotel opens, or 8 months or 12 months, depending on the property, he goes in and he checks every box. He's an IT expert, but he builds a team. He builds a culture. It's amazing to watch Ron work. He's certainly one of our biggest cheerleaders in the company. And he just, again, a position that is continually evolved from day one that he's been with us. But that's another, kind of general attitude of folks that work well with our company, in that, what's the problem? I'll go solve it. Right. We got to, no, it's not no, my job title says this, or my, credentials say I should do this. It's like, no, we're all doing that.
It's a very entrepreneurial culture.
Absolutely.
Everyone can problem solve.
Absolutely. And we've had to learn that with hires over the last few years. As we've grown, not everyone has fit in correctly here. And we've had to make those hard decisions to say, you're a great person, but this isn't the home for you, because we work real well together, and culture is everything. David, my mom, my uncle, we work on it every day. Carrie, I've been on the phone twice with Carrie already this morning, and culture is a big part of who we are. It is absolutely critical. And I think that's where so many times I'm fortunate to have amazing mentors in this business. And I know we'll chat about that later, but that's that's one of the biggest questions I'm asking is, how do you grow but retain your culture? Because there are companies that have done that in absolutely brilliant ways. And then there's companies that have done it that have faltered.
100%.
And we just really want to make sure that ours carries as long as it can.
Absolutely. So speaking of that growth in the evolution, so you're at that Spring Hill Suites for a handful of years, kind of using your career to also tell the story of the company's evolution. Those first few assets seemed like they were developed by you guys as well. It sounds like maybe some management contracts. But what happens after that Spring Hill? So we go from these handful of assets, 90s, early 2000s to, we said, almost 60 hotels today. So what happens in kind of almost the lead up to 2008, and what was that cycle like for the company?
I think really my next significant window for me, really from 2003 to 2008, were very operations focused. Okay. Between the Courtyard and the Spring Hill was still very much family only. As far as above property, we did not have anyone else. It was purely as my dad, my uncle, and I. And so a lot of it was operations. That's where I cut my teeth. That's where I really grew myself through the operations world, and appreciated every aspect of that. 2008, we started to put together Residence Inn Marriott right next door to the Spring Hill, and that was a significant piece for me because I felt like I was part of the entire development cycle. Wow. And then that was also really the first time in would have been 12 years that we had brought in outside capital. And we
how'd that come about?
I think that we were starting. It's like anything. The projects got bigger, they got more expensive, and we felt like we had value in the relationship we had with Marriott at that time, and that there were multiple opportunities ahead of us. And so we started to structure that. And those 3 investors are still with us. They still do a lot with us. They mean the absolute world to me. I was with one of them last night. His grandson and my son play on the same baseball team.
Oh,
so
awesome.
yeah, they're still very, very much local guys. And
like a JV structure?
Yeah, it was a JV. It was 49-51. My dad wanted to retain majority. And so we structured that. And it's an ongoing case study because we took that residence in and it was very successful. At the time, it was pioneering in that we were told there was not enough extended stay occupancy in Florence, South Carolina to make a residence inn successful.
Oh, wow.
We saw it otherwise, and we took a risk. And the first 3 years, we ran almost 72% extended stay occupancy,
wow.
which, anything over 50% is
doing pretty well.
Yeah, pretty successful. So that, needless to say, that hotel was an absolute home run. And it still is today. I mean, it's still a very successful hotel. And we took that hotel, and not only were we paying distributions, but we leveraged that into a town place. And then we leveraged that into a Fairfield. And we leveraged that into a Comfort Suites.
With Marriott or with this partner?
With this partnership.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
So there's 6 of us in the partnership, and we've just taken it and set aside a certain amount of profits, and we've leveraged that into the next projects. And with that, we did a land deal as kind of as the town place was coming on. And remember, this was all 2008. I mean, this was financial crisis. Yeah. I mean, this was some nightmare stuff going on that we.
Where was the opportunity for you in that cycle then? Was there opportunity in the hotel space locally? Did you say?
Yeah, okay. Locally. I mean, that's where we developed the Residence Inn. We developed the town place during that time period.
Was there distress? Were you able to get these lots cheaper?
So we were able to purchase 10 acres for an extreme, very significant discount for where it would have traded today. And that's part of what allowed us to build this portfolio of hotels. I mean, we purchased 10 acres for maybe a 15th of what it would be today. Or at the time. I still remember that conversation because I was negotiating with the broker for the family that owned it. And he came back and gave us an all cash number and said, if you can close here in 30 days, we'll sell it. And made the call back to the partners. And it was the easiest conversation we've ever had because we're going, that land is never going to go bad. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were big on the exit. The Florence Civic Center was there, which is a big event space. Yeah. It was really thriving under new leadership. And we felt like with the mall, the Civic Center, other restaurants, other entertainment opportunities, that it was going to be a significant exit for a long time. So we jumped right on it.
That's neat. When did you guys start to focus more on operations or the management space as opposed to just owning assets?
Yeah, so that was probably 2015, 2016. We actually, what really started the third party side within the company was existing investors acquiring assets, whether that was through a 1031 exchange to where they didn't necessarily need us as partners in the ownership stack, in the capital stack, but they needed us from an operator standpoint. So, so we eased into the third party side of the world.
So this is when you're selling assets, you were saying?
No, this was when, we had partners that liked the hotel business that were already existing investors.
And they bought a new...
They found found an opportunity that
and then brought you guys
brought us in to operate. Neat. So that was kind of the origin. And then part of that story that really started to spin it off was my partnership with David Tart, where our relationship with David Tart really started to build. And
when was that?
That was about, he and I, somewhere 10, 12 years ago.
Okay.
We were introduced by, one of my best buddies in the world, Jim Tierney, who is now over at Hyatt, runs Hyatt North Americas from the select service side on the development world. Jim was one of my first relationships in the business that I built myself. That wasn't a direct, because they knew my father.
Got it.
He knew of my father. That's why he called on us. But he and I built a relationship out of that meeting. And to this day, he's still one of my closest buddies. I think the absolute world of him. And, we have a lot of conversations about the industry, about family, about friends, and can't say enough good things about him. Mm-hmm. But he introduced David and I down in Charleston. David was developing the Hilton Garden Inn in Mount Pleasant. Okay. I was developing the Spring Hill Suites at the base of the bridge. Oh, wow. David got open before I did. And just being the guy that he is, he offered me a heck of a rate to stay there while I was building. Did he really? Yeah. And I mean, crazy. It goes back to what makes this industry just so magical is, we connected through golf, we connected through friends, and it started as a friendship. It started as just, fellow guys in the industry. That's right. And we were talking, we were sharing numbers, we were understanding where we were. Mm-hmm. David was developing the Foundry Hotel, a few years after that. And I remember David called me and he said, I'm tired of dealing with some of the third party side of the world. Mm-hmm. I've got good operators, but I've had not good operators, and I'm thinking about starting my own management company. Interesting. And I was like, well, it's not all that it's cracked up to be. I said, and to me, I mean, David has always been one of the best developers I've ever seen. I mean, he's just got a phenomenal eye for, design and experience. And, you pair that on the operations side. I said, well, let's do something together. So what started as a JV that managed his assets and his investment group's assets, spurred, other businesses and to where we are today. And we brought everything together in 2020. COVID, up from 2015 to 2020, we were so busy. Mm-hmm. We were absolutely just, running and gunning in all directions. Mm-hmm. We were developing, we were operating, we were growing. And then 2020 happened, and it's, everybody's looking around going, what are we going to do?
Sure, of course.
And at that point, coming out of COVID, as difficult as it was, it made us a better company. Yeah. But it also slowed us down a little bit to where Dave and I had that real conversation of what's the next 20 years look like for both of us? And from streamlining things to, being partners for a long period of time. And that's when we decided to, David, my mom and my uncle and I acquired his development company. Got it. Rolled that under the Rains umbrella.
And their assets that they owned at the time?
Not the asset side of the world. Okay. So just more the development arm.
And the management contracts?
And the management. We were already JV with
on that. Those.
Yeah, on that. Mm-hmm. And what we ultimately did, we rolled David's development arm under the Rains umbrella. He joined us as a partner and, my fellow managing partner. Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, a long-time investor with us, great investor, H.S. Russell, great friend, joined us as well at that time. And we started what internally is known as RTR and externally the Rains Company. So we rebranded in 2020. We grew our skill set. We streamlined back of house features that really no one externally knew about, but definitely made our lives easier from an operating model. Sure. Instead of having 6-7 different companies that we were managing the books and flow and everything else. We were able to kind of condense that down. Wow. And it's been great. I mean, David's like a brother to me. He's one of my best friends, and to be able to work with awesome people every day, it makes the trying times a little bit easier.
100%. So at that time, what did you guys see as the vision for? Because that's a big, joint venture, so to speak. Just like coming together here. A lot more new things are possible that probably weren't before. A little bit of that you'll find out probably over time as well. You don't have it all solved, obviously, but right away.
We recognize that every day.
I think everybody does. But so I'm just saying that lightly in that I think a lot of things, or as you've seen with the HP deal too, but what was the focus when you were coming together with, hey, let's go get more third-party management business, let's develop more of our assets, let's do more of these boutique soft branded stuff? Like, what was the focus as you two joined
so I think the focus was having a company that truly had expertise at every part of the cycle.
So more of just vertically integrated.
Yeah, within the cycle of any individual hospitality asset, it's best in class development, it's best in class management, it's best in class investment management. I mean, at that point we were doing all of it, but what we saw was something that was stronger together. And that's what ultimately led to vision. I mean, I think that David and I both had goals to do more on the soft branded, the experience driven assets. We find a lot of passion in those, but one or two of those at a time as we continue to do our core branded stuff that we feel like we're really good at. I mean, whether that's the Hampton Inns or the Courtyards or the Residence Inns of the world.
Before we get into the later deals or the HP deal or even Waynesville or the Foundry, I want to talk about too, because it's just so cool. But could you give an overview of like what the value is that hotel brings to the operator or the owner? Like in this day and age, right? It seems like with the point system, obviously it's just this massive search engine that pairing this question with why are you guys soft branding these boutique assets? But like, what is the, simply put, what is the big value for having a branded asset? And then also talk about maybe the soft branded too.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it's a proven everything from a property management system to the distribution network. Obviously, the customer acquisition cost. I mean, every year Hilton and Marriott deliver a lower customer acquisition cost than everybody else in the business. And then from the corporate side, I mean, the reward systems mean everything. And we've seen that more and more as we analyze independent assets versus the Hilton or the Marriott asset right next door.
Right.
The customers are choosing the Hilton or Marriott asset first.
Just due to the search engine almost, like in lightly speaking?
The search engine, but also as much the points. I mean, the points drive a lot of conversations.
Yeah, of course.
I think that, that's where the spend takes place. I mean, especially in these leisure markets, corporately, the points have been earned and then they want to spend those on the leisure side with their families. So I think that having that Hilton engine, that Marriott engine behind it is extremely valuable. I mean, we've seen it. We've also seen it because we've been through cycles. For me, I mean, 9/11 was really my first, experience of a downturn, and then the financial crisis, and then what was COVID that we're still trying to figure out exactly what that was. But being through those, the insurance almost of having the brand and their ability to market and their ability to drive folks to your hotels, it helps at every point of the cycle. I think that, we as owners have to continually push back. I mean, I think that there is a certain element of we're getting less than we ever have and paying more. Yeah. But that's why we sit on owners' councils. That's why we're active with other owners. That's why we push the brands to be the best partners that they need to be.
And can you give an overview of the soft branded space? Because you guys have done pretty well in this space too,
Absolutely. I mean, it gives us the ability to curate the experience, to curate the story, to choose every aspect of the property. I mean, it's something, from something that seems small, like the shower heads, to every finish that a guest is going to see and touch. But it gives us that horsepower of the Hilton engine, the Marriott engine, the points. It gives the ability to spend. It gives the property management system. I mean, an Opera, Hilton's OnQ or PEP. I mean, they're great systems. They work very well. They integrate well. Again, for us, it differentiates. And Hilton does such a great job with the soft brands. We've had a lot of success with those products, and we think it's the best of both worlds. It gives the guest that wants something truly unique, truly local, truly experience driven, but then it also allows for that point spend. It allows for that direct booking engine. It's not a complex or convoluted vanity site. You've got a very clear app, you've got a website that you can go to and you can book that room.
Yeah, interesting.
And the booking piece feels familiar.
100%.
Wherever you are, wherever you're going, that means a lot to us.
Absolutely. So when you're looking at a new asset and you're evaluating, maybe in an acquisition scenario, are you thinking, hey, how early do you detect which soft brand you kind of want to go into, or are you buying the asset and not soft branding it right away? Like, what is the process of getting it into that system?
So all of that is part of the equation. I think that, as we're making acquisitions, we're looking at, do we make that conversion now? Do we do the renovation and then make that conversion? That was the success we found in Waynesville, is we delivered the finished product and then we brought the brands to the table.
So you developed, rebranded or renovated for lightly using
full renovation,
fully renovate, then say, hey, here's this finished product. Which soft brand do we want to go with from there? What made that more valuable for you guys to do it that way?
Because
get a better deal from the brands.
You get a better deal, and as much as they don't want me to say, it's a better deal, and it's more of us driving the story and driving the direction of things. I think that, as the brands have evolved, they've built teams. I mean, Jenna Hackett at Hilton is absolutely phenomenal in understanding exactly what a soft brand is and where the value and where the level of quality needs to be. Early on, you didn't have that level of expertise. You had folks that had come out of a full-service world, a full-service hard-branded world, and they wanted to mandate the shower heads. They wanted to mandate, the nightstands or whatever little piece. And you're like, no, that's not the point of this. Yeah. You need a certain level of quality, but you also need to be able to choose the right things for the right market that still fit with the guest expectations.
Got it.
And that's where we drive. We see so much value in the soft brands because we're able to curate every piece of the story.
And you can put your own touch on the
absolutely
the memory or the resort or the stay, right? So how do you guys bring in more modern date? How do you evaluate? Because you have stuff as far west as Oklahoma?
And Texas, yeah.
How do you evaluate new markets for your team of is there some sort of trajectory or board of hey, we want to get into this market, or do opportunities find you and you give it a good look, evaluate, and say, we can do this?
We're fortunate that, opportunities come our way. I mean, we have an organic development process,
right,
and that usually has been very much in our backyard. We've had opportunity. I mean, we just opened a really nice Hilton True in North Augusta. That came by an introduction of the landowner who was looking at doing a Hilton product, asked us to kind of weigh in and help, and we were able to build a JV out of that. So, I mean, we do a lot. I mean, we feel like we bring value as a partner. We've got a history of being a great partner. So the collaboration side really comes a lot directly to us, the opportunity. I mean, we source the sites, we source the markets. We're searching for data to see where the next up and coming opportunity is. So on the development side, it's very organic, relationship driven. And then the third party management piece, which we'll get into through the HP acquisition, a lot of that is referral as well.
What about right now as far as acquisition of existing hotels? So that would be the asset and then the management contract as well. Is that an organic process?
It is. Yeah. Okay. So we're searching out. A lot of times that's calls coming directly from owners. That's conversations we're having at conferences where we're meeting. I mean, we spend a lot of time. We're in a great network of other owners. So right now, I mean, we're doing a lot of underwriting for existing partners.
Got it.
Because our partners come to us and they say, "Hey, I found this asset. What does this look like?"
Interesting.
And we had that, whether that's an institutional partner that we manage for, like Noble Investments, or that's an individual, high net worth individual that is looking at an asset that's, we're underwriting a portfolio for one of our investors right now.
So they're coming to you saying, "Hey, if I buy this deal, we want you guys to manage it, underwrite it, tell me what we think we could make work here."
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we have that side of it, and then we also have, kind of the third piece. If we have management, we have development. the third piece of what we do is the investment side of the arm, or the investment arm of the business. And, that's run by Kristen Myers on our team, our SVP of investments. She's looking at things that come our way all the time for us to structure with our investors to then go purchase. And
so your own acquisition of the asset.
Our own acquisition.
One question that falls just in line with this it stands out right away, and maybe it came up on one of your, I think, the case studies on the website, but underwriting in the hotel space seems so complicated because there's 1,000 levers, right? How do you evaluate, or when you're underwriting an asset and you see maybe a brand mismatch, or like, hey, we think this could be better, as you name it. How do you evaluate that process and when to roll out? If you're going to acquire a property, again, I'm sure you could give a better example of it, right? But what process do you rebrand to this a different product that is going to have a higher yield for the asset? Like, how is that process done on paper? And then when you're looking at it, is it just being in the business long enough where you kind of get a feel right away of, hey, this is a better Hilton Garden Inn than it is a XYZ? Like, how do you evaluate the rebranding of assets? It seems very complex.
Yeah, the conversion side of our world, it's actually been very busy here the last year as, development costs have risen, construction costs have risen. But, other brands or newer brands become available. I think that's an opportunity we're really seeing. I think that, I was talking to a partner of ours last night that was converting a 4 points to an AC. And that's an amazing conversion, and that one's a little easier. That's within the brand world, right? I mean, that's a Marriott to a Marriott. That's taking kind of a property and moving that up.
Absolutely.
So there's advantages to that, to the brand. I think the harder conversation comes where you're taking it from a less desirable brand to a more desirable brand. Then you're really getting into contractual obligations and what the cost of conversion is. And so that's really the underwriting piece that we spend a lot of time on is, what is that total cost, and then what is the pickup? And a lot of times you can see it very easily, and then there's times that it really gets into the weeds of trying to create value. So a lot of times, we're looking for operational deficiencies first.
Yep.
And then from there, we're building on the brand side of the thing, the construction side of it. I mean, some of it is simply assets that owners they've exhausted their capital through COVID. Yeah. They have a PIP required. Mm-hmm. They can't necessarily refinance. I mean, that's an opportunity that's unfortunately it's business, but it seems to be happening a fair amount right now.
The property that stuck out that I was saw on the website was a Holiday Inn to the Hilton Nashville Airport, maybe a long time ago. It looked like the conversion.
Yeah,
that one looked unique.
It was unique. It was a very successful conversion. That actually came on the HP side of the world.
Okay, cool.
Carrie handled that, so that was prior to us coming together. Mm-hmm. But I have heard enough of that. But yeah, that was an older Holiday Inn, major capital needed, and when that decision was made, the opportunity was for it to become a Hilton Garden Inn, and It increased asset value. It increased ADR and occupancy right out the gate. And it was conversion of dollars spent in the right places in the construction side of the world, but also having a powerhouse brand like Hilton Garden Inn associated with it. That turned out to be a very, very much a home run.
Wow. What operational deficiencies do you look for? You were saying in the underwrite, like what sticks out as something that you're like, hey, we're really good at this. We know how to revamp this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly the labor management piece. I mean, I think that making sure it's a model that truly works for that asset. I think it's, what we're seeing now as we grow is the purchasing power of everything, being able to bring that scale to the table. But I think it's just understanding. I mean, the labor is usually the biggest opportunity, and then it's the yield management of rates. I mean, we see a lot of mismanagement on the revenue management side. I mean, you can kind of tell by who's doing the revenue management by if there's an opportunity to increase fairly quickly. Wow. So there's probably a dozen line items that the team dives into right away, and then they prioritize from there. But that's where. We're able to drive a lot to the top line, but operationally, we drive it through the middle of the page all the way to the bottom. And I think that's where we're unique, or not unique. I mean, we've got competitors that do it really well.
That's where you
too.
excel.
Yeah, that's where we excel, though, because we understand what's important to the investor. We understand what's important to the owner, but we also understand how to get there through top line and the middle of the page.
Wow. In transitioning a little bit to maybe a couple deal stories, if there's anything you wanted to chat about through there, and then we can wrap up in a little bit. But the HP deal obviously sticks out and seems like a pretty significant. We chat about Waynesville Inn, but the Foundry, if we wanted to chat about that as well, that would be cool. But you tell me, what sticks out in your mind is a more significant deal? Well,
I think those all three of those fit very different buckets and kind of times in our life. I think the Foundry, full credit. I mean, that was developed by David. That was an opportunity David Tart saw early,
it's amazing looking
early on. Yeah. I mean, it was the first historic adaptive reuse that allowed the combination of new buildings between old buildings to then create what is now the Foundry. That area of Asheville, I mean, the Foundry, I mean, that building was falling in on itself. I mean, it was an unbelievable amount of vision to take it from a crumbled old building to what it is now. I mean, it's just one of the coolest hotels. I mean, every time you walk in there, even today, as I'm spoiled by the amount of times I do get to stay there, it still feels special every time I walk in it. And I think that's something, it's truly a timeless asset. It's something that people will be talking about 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and the way you're able to evolve. But I think, I put it in combination with the project I did here in Florence with Hotel Florence.
Okay.
And that was my first soft branded asset. That was my first historic adaptive reuse. Another Chris Scott, I'd failed to mention that, there's people in this business that, if we had not crossed paths, I don't know the direction things would have taken. They could have put me on a different path, or, the family business was always going to be there, but there's connections. Chris is another one of my best friends in the world. He's godfather of my kids. I mean, he's just one of the best human beings I know, and somebody that I look up to for a lot of different reasons. Chris and I were connected along with Tim Norwood, and Tim, owner of Victor's Restaurant, #1 restaurant in Florence, a really great experience. He was looking to move from his existing location in Florence into a property somewhere else. And we had just renovated our Courtyard Marriott, and Tim and I were together at the bar just catching up. And he said, Gray, I really want to we should do a boutique hotel. He said, let's partner up. I've got the restaurant piece. I've got the hotel piece. And I was like, Tim, always wanted to do that. My father's always talked about like the ability to do something unique, to do something. I mean, as great as the hard brands are, at times they can be restrictive. And I said, Tim, where are we going? We're going to Charleston. We're going to New Orleans. Like, where are we going? He's like, we're going to downtown Florence. And I was like, Tim, you are absolutely crazy. I said, what in the hell are you thinking? And he said, just come look at this building. He goes, you got to meet Chris Scott. And Chris and I we knew of each other, but we really had not interacted at that point. He said, you got to meet Chris Scott, and let's go take a look at this building. And so David Raines, my wife, and I went down and we toured this building. And when I say it was bad, it was awful. It was just awful. It's very similar to David Tart's stories of looking at the Foundry. And we were able to completely change the neighborhood. I mean, at that time, downtown Florence was completely dilapidated. We had a great developer, Dr. John Keith, was doing some really neat things in the restaurant space down there, was showing that there was an opportunity for something, but to come in with the size and scale of our project to then prove out that, hey, Florence, it's time to, there's an opportunity here. And so I think that's where the Foundry and Hotel Florence, I mean, to walk in and be able to change a neighborhood, to be able to change the direction, to build on the history of that neighborhood. I think that's something David, it was always so important to him with the Foundry of the block, as it was referred to, generationally very much an African American community, and to be able to take that history and to restore these buildings, but then to be able to fit in the fabric of the community and to be a part of things. I mean, it's very much who we are. I mean, we always have the goals of being very active in the communities that our properties are in. Yep. We want to be a good corporate citizen. We want to create opportunities for the citizens of that community. Right. All of that means something. I mean, it comes down to every project we look at of can we change the lives of the folks that work with us? Yeah. I mean, it really, we're fortunate where we are and where we're going. And, my goal has always been if we can take as many people with us as possible, that means we've accomplished something. If folks that have worked with us 20 years later can say, right, they treated me right, they gave me an opportunity, yeah, and whether they're still with us or they've moved on, we want them to be able to sit there and say that us as a company have done right by them.
I love it.
And yeah, the Foundry is it's one of the coolest places we've ever been. But I think that those two certainly fit adaptive reuse and changing neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the hardest part is of those adaptive reuse projects? It seems like another thing where there's so many levers to it.
The short answer is everything. I think back. I mean, again, David could tell you all the intricacies of the development of the Foundry, but for Hotel Florence, I mean, you're working with National Park Service on the historic tax credit piece. Yeah. You're going in somewhere that, Hotel Florence, Tim and Chris and I put a big target on our backs. I mean, there's many people that wanted to see it happen. Also, they didn't believe it could happen. Sure. And they didn't necessarily support our mayor and our council and everyone for supporting the project. Wow. They're like, we've tried that before and it didn't work. We've tried that before and it didn't work. So there's no need in trying it again. Yeah. Which just makes me want to go do it that much more. 100%. So, and fortunately, with my family and Tim and Chris, we were able to deliver that property. And then from there, we built a Hyatt Place, developed several more office buildings downtown, all historic adaptive reuse. But those projects are they're very complex. They're a lot of moving pieces that you just have to dig in. And it's just funny. Every time we finish a historical project, we're like, we're never doing that again. And then, of course, I mean, I'm on the phone earlier with David. We've got another one starting in Columbia here in about a month, and which is just a completely different story. I mean, the one in Columbia, it's an old fire station. It's going to be an amazing property, but it's also an amazing mission. And I think that's what we're so excited about. It just got announced a few weeks ago, but we've partnered with the Shepherd Hotel Group. And if you've heard of the Shepherd in Clemson, South Carolina, it's partnered with Clemson Life, and which helps students with special needs and Down syndrome. An amazing property in Clemson. Well, we're part of the team delivering the second Shepherd in conjunction with Carolina Life into downtown Columbia, South Carolina. So cool. And that is now public information. It's going out, and it's just something that we've been working on for a while. That it's going to be really a neat property with an absolutely amazing mission.
Of course.
And to be able to pair both of those together, I mean, what the Shepherd Group is doing is tremendous. They have an amazing vision that we're excited about to be in Columbia, to be a part of in Columbia, but also hopefully more in the future.
Absolutely. Fits the Rains brand well to give back and take care.
We think so too. Yeah, we really do. Awesome.
Want to wrap up kind of with the HP deal?
Yeah. I mean,
talked about Carrie intermittently here and there, but how did it? So that was 2023. So this is last year. So the Waynesville is last year, HP's last year, and then there's stuff going on last week. So what was the origin of the relationship with Carrie, and then how did the deal kind of come to be?
Yeah, I could talk deals all day. I love it. I mean, it's part of what we do.
Can you give an overview of the deal, like what you guys did get from them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, started 15 years ago with the relationship. Carrie and I we were on an owner's council together or something like that. And, just a friendship was formed. And as I like to joke with Carrie and David, they're both significantly older than me. So, I look at them as, my elders. So I would call Carrie and ask them questions. They'd kill me for saying that, by the way. But Carrie and I just had an amazing communication, and we'd share information. HP was growing. Rains was kind of, very, at that point, we're still very small.
Yeah.
And he was always so kind to me with answering questions and understanding how things were. And we ran across each other at Hunter Hotel Conference. Would have been almost 3 years ago now. And really, everything happens for a reason. We cross paths for 30 seconds of, hey, buddy, how are you? What's going on? What's going on in your world? How are things? And there was a mention, there was an opportunity, and I looked at it. I said, "Would you do something with us?" Because he was weighing another opportunity.
Interesting.
And he looked at me. He's like, "If that's even on the table, then yeah, let's do this. Let's." We set up a meeting the next day. He and David and I. David had not met Carrie, and Carrie missed the meeting.
From
Just big night out, travel, a little bit of everything, right? So he missed the meeting. And I was like, I just remember, well, again, things happen for a reason. And Carrie called me. He's like, man, I'm sorry. I've never missed a meeting. It just happened. Yeah. And I kind of just shook it off. The next week we had a conversation, and a month later we had a conversation, and then we met with some of the other partners of HP at the time. And just it started to figure out, like, culturally, there's an opportunity here. And I think that, there are acquisitions taking place all the time in our industry, but the goal of the acquisition is the management contracts. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the business. That's what happens. With HP, this was every bit an acquisition of the people as it was the contracts. Mm. Contracts were important. That drives the revenue. But we saw a team full of people that were primed to join our team. Wow. And then go see how far we can take this thing. And that's at every level of it. I mean, from the controllers to the accountants to sales and ops. And that was really always Dave and Carrie and I's concern of doing this, is how well are our people. You don't want to create adversarial relationships. And it's funny, you look back, and that was kind of the easiest piece of the integration. I mean, people they recognized that it was good because everybody believed in the growth, and they realized that we needed everybody at the table to go achieve our big goals. And because, when you look around, you go, well, that person does the same thing I do, and they're going to pick one of us. Mm-hmm. But the reality is we needed both of them. Right. And they recognized that early. Yeah. So we were able to take that and then push forward.
And this was 27 management contracts?
27 management contracts. Yeah.
And then the employees were ranging from on-site to back office.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So really the core of that was the above property folks. So about 14 people.
Interesting.
And then you had the GM, sales, those folks had the property levels. So we were able to retain everybody. Wow. And it's worked out really well. We've picked up some amazing expertise. At that time, we had 6 third-party management contracts, and Carrie had been doing the third-party side for almost 20 years. Mm. And to bring that level of expertise and really the differential of when to act like an owner and when to act like a manager. I mean, we were kind of always, no, this is what we do as owners. Well, that's not always the case, because ownership sometimes can have a different vision than we would have as owners. And that's ultimately why we've exited some third-party relationships. I mean, we want relationships. Yeah, we want relationships. We want people that are willing to invest in their properties. They want to be best in class. That means a lot to us as a company. And so, we've always considered ourselves on the smaller side of things. Small but selective is something we use internally. We pride ourselves on saying no more than we say yes. Mm-hmm. We truly analyze the partnership, and is it people that we want to do business with? Because, whether that was going with my father's illness or whatever. I mean, my father got sick at 42, and that's always stood out to me. We have a strong policy in not doing business with people we don't want to do business with. And we'd rather wait till the next project than to just jump in bed with people because if you're a pain early, then you're going to be a pain later. And I think that was such a testament to our investor group really during COVID. I mean, the ones that, the ones that called just to check on us. Yeah. Hey guys, I know it's tough. Don't worry about it. I just want to make sure you're okay. Because there was so much unknown. The early days of COVID, when we went from 90+% occupancy to 6%, you're going, where does this end? And the story of 3 million people are going to die in 2 months. There are just so many levels of this. You got 1,000 associates you're concerned with as well, and also trying to function a hotel. But again, we came out a better company. The lessons we've learned during COVID, they'll prepare us for the next cycle. Mm-hmm. But the HP deal, it worked out in a big way. Yeah,
it seems monumental as well to jump into the third-party management space aggressively.
Absolutely. Very much aggressively. Yeah. And I still remember Hunter Conference last year where we announced it. We felt like it was important. Lee and Teague are such great friends. And because that deal really started at Hunter Conference, we're like, we're going to announce it.
That's cool.
At Hunter Conference the next year. And I just remember a lot of eyes on us last year going, how did you pull this off? What are the details? And I'm like, well, we're not telling you everything, but yeah, it put us on the radar. It was listed as one of the top transactions of last year. Just being able to pull that off is to take a well-respected name like HP and then roll it into the Raines umbrella and the Raines name and create a much stronger team.
That's amazing. In wrapping up a little bit now, I've got last couple of questions for you, but is there anything about the Raines story you think that we missed or would be good to highlight? I think we talked about everything. The only piece I think we didn't call by name is maybe the Woven by Raines, is the boutique arm.
Right. Yeah. The Woven arm, again, that's a leadership team that's focused on those style assets of being able to create a story, procure the right FF&E, work with the soft brands, or work independent. We're not opposed to an independent. We're underwriting an independent right now that we do like. And we try to truly understand whether it's a market that supports independence or are you giving something up by being an independent. But we're not opposed to independence. So I think that, again, it's about having the right leadership in place to be able to make that decision.
Wow.
But no, I think the Raines story, it's great to be able to work with my mom and my uncle then with David right there with us and Carrie. It's really a powerful team that we've put together that has a lot of runway. I think that's the other thing is we're talking to investors or third-party managers. A lot of it is we have a lot of experience, but we also have a lot of runway. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big part of our story of, some of these other companies are going to see major transitions happen in the next 3 to 5 years. I think ours is pretty solid for a long time.
I like it. Last couple of questions. So what is the team focused on now? You have a lot going on, obviously, which we talked about, but as far as the future, also, where do you see the future of the company? And is there any asset class, maybe outside of the hotel space, or is there any service or maybe a different hotel or brand or market? Is there anything you're not doing or have never done that you guys are like, hey, we would maybe like to do this in the future?
I think jumping into the golf business last year was probably got us covered for the next couple of years as we truly fully embrace the golf side of the world. No, I think, we've developed a couple office buildings that's gone well. Really smaller office buildings
downtown here.
Downtown here, and then we completed one in Base the Bridge in Mount Pleasant. And then that went well. It's filled up very quickly. It gave us the opportunity to have a Charleston Mount Pleasant office. So yeah, I think we'll continue to look at those opportunities. We've always been opportunistic in that. What is the next? The next asset class to excel. I think, but we've had our hands full with hospitality. It's been hard to jump into other things. So I think that we've got a team that truly excels in the world of hospitality. I think we're gonna chase that for a while.
Yeah, makes sense. Last question for you. You've been in this business for a long time. A lot of people have helped you, but who do you think has helped you the most along the way in your hospitality or real estate career? Who do you think has really been critical?
Yeah, so I actually, it's one of these things. I've been so fortunate to have the best mentors and the best folks that allowed me to ask them dumb questions early on, and they embrace that. And my family first. I mean, my wife Jenny and how much she supports this crazy endeavor. We've got 3 great kids: my mom and my uncle and my father and my grandfather. And then having the best partners in the world with Carrie and David. I mean, to be able to just go get after it every day with them means a lot. But now I look in the mentors in the business, and Jay Patel from Atlanta is truly one of my closest friends, but one of the guys that I trust completely. And he and my father were friends. We actually, our story is so intertwined. It's just really funny. That's dating cool. Back to the mid 90s. And he and my father had a handshake deal to buy. We bought a hotel from him. And as I was coming into the business, and my father was sick, and he's like, "You've got to learn from some of these other folks." And he's like, one of the best guys in the business, guy named Jay Patel. He lives in Atlanta now. And I still remember calling. I was 21, 22 years old. And I was like, "Mr. Patel, this is Gray Rains." And he's like, "Are you Mark's kid?" I was like, "Yeah." So I'd love to just ask you a few questions and kind of understand how the business works. Like, how do you see the world? He goes, "Why don't you just come spend a couple days with me?" And the next month I drove to Atlanta, and I just spent a couple of days with Jay a few weeks ago.
Oh, no way.
And it's just one of the closest relationships I have. Just one of my best buddies. Mark Laporte, Concord Hospitality, introduced to Mark via Steve Joyce years ago. And again, I mean, the things Mark has done to help us become the company we are. I mean, he'll tell you it's been nothing, but it's meant a lot to me. I mean, he really, I think he's one of the best in the business, and he has carried and grown a culture and a company that really is a lot to look up to. And so Mark's meant a lot to me. Nish Patel from Charlotte, Jim Tierney, David Pepper. I mean, guys that again, I look up to. They're good friends. I love being with them, but also I learn something from them every time I'm around them. Jim Brown, Jim was really kind of the first investor we had.
Oh, that's a big one.
For me, kind of first, outside, bringing somebody in. Jim's a local Florence guy, along with Frank Chisholm and Alan Blaker. The 3 of them believed in me early on, believed in our family, believed in our company. And Jim has done things for me to help us grow and to be that, again, it doesn't necessarily make business sense, but he's done it out of the relationship. And as he's always told me, he's like, people helped him get to where he was, and he wanted to carry that forward. And, we wouldn't be where we are today without Jimmy. I mean, I love him like a brother, and I think the world of him. But, Chris Scott. Chris is another one. I keep naming these people. They mean so much to me. I mean, Chris, another guy I mentioned earlier. And then, the other thing that really stands out at contemporaries, Justin Jabara, Meyer Jabara Hotels out of the Northeast. I mean, if I bought a hotel in the Northeast right now, Justin would be the guy that I call. I said, "Come operate this thing." Wow. Company culture is amazing. His father, Richard, Bill Meyer, and then Justin's now president. They're another just fantastic operator. The way they do things is the right way. So he's a guy I talk to a couple times a week, just sharing notes. What are we looking at? How are we doing things? And, so he means a lot to me. And then, the team we have, the team here means everything. And folks that have been with us a long time, Kristen and Perry and Marcy and Ron and Dan, Jason, Nancy, Steph. I mean, we've got so many great people that have been with us a long time that's what drives me to work hard every day and drives us to help build the culture and the company that we want to be and continue to grow from here.
It's amazing.
The team's awesome.
That's so cool. it's an amazing story. I want to thank you, obviously, for having me here and sharing the story with me and the company and the future and the outlook. How can people find out more about the story or find you as a partner? Obviously,
rainsco.com.
Yep.
RAINES. Emails, phone numbers, all of that's there. Would love to hear their story. Call me with questions. Call me with projects they're working on. We bring, I think that's always what we translate to the team too, is we try to be a resource.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are folks that helped us along the way, even if it's a project you're considering, it's a brand to work with. Even if there's not an opportunity for us to work together, reach out, ask a question. I mean, we've unfortunately learned the good and the bad of the hospitality space, and I don't believe in reinventing the wheel every time. So, we do a lot of on what I consider more consulting too. I mean, folks that are, very capable developers, but they're looking to add hospitality as a component, or, they're a smaller owner operator looking to move to another market. I mean, we help people all the time. So if there's an opportunity to work together from a business standpoint, that's awesome. And if not, it's just maybe learn from some of our mistakes.
Absolutely. I love it. I think that's a great place to wrap. Great. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely.